What is going on, everybody? Welcome in. It's Alarm Fantasy Football. I'm your host, Howard Bender. With me, of course, Andrew Cooper. That's the side. Andrew Cooper right there, everybody. Give him a follow on Twitter at Coop A Fiasco. I'm at RotoBuzz Guy if you want to chat with me at all. And oh, baby, we've got a great show planned for you guys here today. It is Waiver Wire Tuesday. Fantasy football waiver wire action is where our focus is here. We know that you guys want to talk some trades, and some of you freaks out there want to go at some lineup stuff. That's for the next 2 days. Tomorrow's trades, lineup questions on Thursday. We get you 100% set and squared away. We got to talk waiver wire. There's a lot of stuff going on here. Bye weeks in the NFL are here right now. Chargers, Browns, Seahawks, Buccaneers, they're all off this week. That means there are a lot of players that we need to replace. A lot of things going on here. So if you got chat questions over there, pop them in there. We are always happy to hit you up with, should I drop this guy? Should I add this guy? Whatever it might be, we'll stay focused on the waiver wire action here tonight. Coop, my man. Do we need to just shake off the grime that was Monday Night Football in week 4 and just keep looking ahead right now? Do we want to talk news? There's all sorts of stuff going on here. I don't know what's what.
Yeah, the beautiful thing about when the Giants have a bad game is that all the Giants fans that used to follow me already unfollowed me during the Evan Engram saga. So now I can just talk trash about the Giants with immunity, right? There's still a couple floating around, but I can throw whatever I want out there. But my goodness, was that ugly? And I was worried about this with multiple teams because sometimes what you have is you have a great coach that can brute force a team to the playoffs. You saw it with Andy Reid and Alex Smith, but at the end of the day, and Alex Smith went to some Pro Bowls. They were winning 12, 14 games a year, and the good coach kind of masks it. And then once they move on to a guy like Mahomes, you're like, oh, wait a second. This is what it could have been like the whole time. Same thing with the Eagles with Carson Wentz. And then with Jalen Hurts, it's like, wait a second. This is what it really looks like. I worried about that for Brian Dable, that maybe Daniel Jones isn't it. You really want to show up for 1 year. He was the coach there for 1 year and then immediately hitched his wagon to this guy. I don't know, man. It's looking pretty ugly. They did not look like they were friends on the sideline.
You're jumping ship too early, dude. You're jumping ship way too early. Listen, I'm not saying that Daniel Jones is the be-all, end-all, but we did see marked improvement last year, right? Well, look at their schedule. Look at who they've taken on already, and look at the fact that you've been without Saquon Barkley. Listen, if Matt Breida and Gary Brightwell are the only guys that you need to worry about coming out of that backfield, well, who gives a crap about run defense at that point? Right. I mean, you saw Daniel Jones rip off a couple of runs because the Seahawks, they were back on their heels. I mean, obviously, Jamal Adams going down again immediately was a huge bummer for them. And so they had to kind of compensate in that fashion. Had Saquon Barkley been there, I think this would have been a much different story against this Seattle defense. I think they were kind of in a panic when Adams went down a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, this is what the running backs want to see. They want the situation to be this. If you can give one guy $160 million, but you can't give this guy $20 million and he's no good without the other guy, then maybe you gotta start paying these guys. Maybe you gotta start paying Saquon Barkley. So
you can hit your wagon to that one too, man. That's never gonna happen in a million years. As Eckler, Barkley, as these guys all sit on the sidelines right now.
I know. And you can see it happening with it's crazy. Like clockwork. You give these guys money and then the wheels fall off, so it's tough. But Christian McCaffrey, he's the shining hope. He's the shining hope that you can trade for a guy and pay him. And then it's all fun. It's all fun times. So I don't know. It's just right now that what I saw last night was rough, man. It was rough.
It was definitely rough. There's no doubt about it. But we're going to close the door on NFL Week 4. We're going to kind of look ahead here to Week 5. Talk about some of the things that are going on right now that are going to affect everybody, especially, again, like I said, the bye weeks that were sitting there, Chargers, Browns, Seahawks, and Bucks. Justin Herbert needs to be replaced. Keenan Allen needs to be replaced. You got, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf and Geno Smith and Kenneth Walker. I mean, so lots to talk about here. Let's get to some of the news and notes that should kind of affect what's going on with your waiver wire action, especially because you got to figure out who you're going to drop. It's ads and drops, and you have to be very conscious of who you're getting rid of before you kind of dump him. ESPN's Dan Graziano says Jonathan Taylor's status with the Colts, quote unquote, remains unsettled. Right. But Shane Steichen says there is a chance that Taylor could play in week 5. Obviously, that turns to the question of, well, what do I do with Zach Moss? Because if it's Jonathan Taylor, then Zach Moss is rendered, useless.
Yeah.
But if this is going to happen, Jonathan Taylor, isn't going to play, then I think you gotta stay invested in Zach Moss again after what we've seen.
You got to hold him, man. And honestly, there's a world where if Jonathan Taylor does get traded, if you had Jonathan Taylor and we're using Zach Moss, now you got 2 running backs. So, I mean, the upside is there. You definitely can't drop him right now. And, I just worry that, the conversations you've had with the GM, Jim Bowden, from an actual GM where he's seen these conversations a million times and he's looking at it and saying, I just don't know how this guy shows up to work and, keeps his stance of like, you guys aren't going to pay me. I'm not going to talk to you. And I don't even like you, but I'm going to show up and play in this gladiator sport for you. It is kind of crazy like that. I mean, I don't know. How do you show up in Jonathan Taylor and kind of still give the silent treatment, but then play?
Well, I mean, I don't know who he's giving the silent treatment to. He's got to patch things out. I mean, listen, everybody in the team, the players all know what's going on behind the scenes. Everybody sees what's going on. And, this was a holdout, a renegotiation, stand with, my brothers and Jacobs and Barkley from the year. And so, the players will end up respecting that. So I'm not worried if Jonathan Taylor goes out there and gives it his all. His team's going to give him the 100% support. Ownership, I don't think they care. Okay, you're going to go out there and you're going to try and up your trade value by, balling out for us. Do it. Let's make it happen, And I think that's perfectly fine. I guess the real question and the thing that we just need to know is, shit or get off the pot. Is it going to be Jonathan Taylor? Is it going to be Zach Moss? I'm really curious as to how long it takes for this situation to get resolved this week. So again, like you say, if you're picking up waiver wire guys, if for some reason Zach Moss is still sitting out there, then you grab him. And if he's not, if you're holding him, you got to hold on to him for at least one more week.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Saquon Barkley, like we were just saying, missed last night's game, still in question for this coming week. Obviously, it's a game against Miami. That's Miami's run defense isn't all that, but again, we don't know what's going on with Saquon Barkley. Are you sitting on Matt Breida, sitting on Gary Brightwell? I guess in this running back economy, we can't let those guys go either.
Nope. Yeah, we really can't. Because, I mean, and we said it before where there's guys that we don't necessarily trust or love, but we sat there and said, Kyron Williams, when am I going to ever start him? And it just turns out that he's going to be the guy for a long time, right? So if you have somebody that you could start for the short term, and we always emphasize short term because you never know what it's going to happen, especially at running back position, you got to hold him. Gary Brightwell, I'm not sure how many leagues I'm holding him in, but Matt Breida, you got it.
Matt Breida, you definitely have to hold on to him. Garrett Brightwell, yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, we're not seeing anything, and there's nothing to be seen from this running game when it is those guys. Cincinnati, we're all worried about T. Higgins and his rib injury. Again, if you're replacing, guys like Lockett or Metcalf who are going to be on bye weeks, and now you're also dealing with replacing T. Higgins, that wide receiver market getting a little bit tight. They didn't rule him out here for week 5 against the Cardinals, but still something we obviously have to kind of pay attention to. Tyler Boyd. Yes, no. I mean, we got to also kind of deal with the garbage that the Bengals are providing us with right now. Do I mean, obviously, if you've got Tyler Boyd, you just keep him there and you wait and see. If you're in like a 10-team league that only starts 2 wide receivers, does he suddenly become somebody if T. Higgins is out?
No, I think it's got to be your 3 wide receiver league with a flex, but with Irv Smith Jr. banged up, it's not a bad idea. And here's the scary part of the timing for the Bengals is that if you're going to hold T. Higgins out this week, do you sit there and say, well, our bye week is week 7. So if we're going to hold him out week 5, maybe we just hold him out week 6 and get him back after the bye, give him 3 weeks. It's like the timing for that one really stinks for Higgins because once you say, oh, well, we're going to hold him out, he can't play this week, might as well just give him 3 weeks. So it does get scary. Hopefully you have IR spots that you can slide those guys in. Otherwise, I don't know. It gets real tough with the bye weeks with these guys with no IR spots.
Yeah. And all right, here we go. Again, no Geno Smith, no Justin Herbert this week. I mean, if you were investing in Deshaun Watson, hell, if you were looking at Tampa Bay, if you had Baker Mayfield, or if you're concerned about Mac Jones. I mean, we got a lot of stuff going on here. Kenny Pickett dealing with a bone bruise in his knee, could miss week 5, according to Ian Rappaport. I know. Well, wait. Just think about it more for like super flex reasons before you start vomiting profusely all over the place.
Yeah.
Mitch Trubisky, is that a name, Coop, that even remotely interests you?
I mean, here's the thing. If you're, when you get into some of those super flex leagues, no. I mean, I can't, man. Because I look at it, I'm even like, Mitch Trubisky or like Joshua Dobbs. I'm still going Dobbs, man. At least he plays hard. Like if it's Mitch Trubisky or Desmond Ritter, now maybe I'm saying Mitch Trubisky, but even at the bottom, there's still better options. I don't know. Would you go Ritter or Trubisky? It's like crazy.
I mean, I don't even.
Mac Jones might not even play through the next game again. Like he got benched this week, so it's like I guess there is a world where you sit back and you start doing the rankings, and Mitch Trubisky, he's not quarterback 32.
No, he's not quarterback 32. I think that's reserved for Ryan Tannehill at this point. But it's Trubisky against the Ravens as a possibility this week. So, and then Mac Jones, who's New England playing? The Saints.
Yeah. Well, so
he could get benched again.
The thing is, someone's gonna, if he's a starter, someone's gonna add him, because it's not even a matter of him having to be a top 30 quarterback. It's that if your 2 quarterbacks are Deshaun Watson and somebody else, there's teams in your league that already have 3 quarterbacks. So he has to be considered. He's going to get added if he's started.
All right. Keep piling in those questions in the chat. We're going to go through them in just a little bit. I see y'all kind of creeping on in there. Welcome, everybody. If you're new here, smash that like and subscribe button for us here on the Fantasy Alarm YouTube page. Before we get to your questions in chat, how about here we go? Coop, top 3 waiver wire claims at each position. Britt Flynn's got the waiver wire article over at fantasyalarm.com. That is free of charge. Just go to fantasyalarm.com. You'll see it right there on the homepage. You want to definitely check that out. She gives you not only who to take, but potentially how much of your FAAB budget you're going to want to send towards that player. So here we go, Coop. Top 3 waiver wire claims for this week at each position. We'll start off at quarterback. I've got it listed here. CJ Stroud, Matthew Stafford, Sam Howell. What do you think?
CJ Stroud is looking like the real deal, man, and he's sounding like the real deal. Like I'm really enjoying the CJ Stroud experience here, because he comes out and says the right stuff after the games too. But I mean, this guy can chuck. This guy can play. Maybe that S2 cognitive test wasn't the end all be all that people were saying it was, Howard. Because CJ Stroud right now in single QB leagues, I'm going out and I'm adding this guy. If I have a number of different, if you have Geno Smith or Deshaun Watson, I might just straight up drop them and add CJ Stroud if I can. No need to really hold him through the bye week if you can get this guy who the game scripts are playing right into his hands, and these weapons, the Nico Collinses and the Tank Dells and even Robert Woods, with him, they're good. I mean, like imagine that you get rid of Davis Mills and all of a sudden these guys are actually playing like 2nd round picks, like 3rd round picks, like they actually are. So yeah, CJ Stroud, awesome. And Matt Stafford too. The rumors of his demise clearly were over exaggerated. Like the fact that people were saying he was going to retire looks like Matt Stafford to me. Looks like he can get the ball to the guy in the slot. If the guy's getting separation, no problem. So yeah, Stafford, another one. Howell is one where it's like, I don't know. What are your thoughts on Howell? Because he's very exciting. He's fun to watch. Whereas like Mac Jones is just bad. Even when Howell's bad, it's still fun. 4 interceptions. He's running around. But I don't know. I don't know if I trust him as much. What do you think, Howard?
I mean, I don't trust him as much as Stroud or Stafford. No. But I mean, to your point before, not only Mac Jones, but Desmond Ritter. If I'm looking at Sam Howell this Thursday night at home against the Bears, that's a matchup you have to explore. So if you are struggling, if you do have bye week issues, if you lost Mac Jones because you don't know if you can start him at all, then Sam Howell is definitely the way to go. I don't mind that.
There's a line there, right, where it's like you just say send it, right? Just send it. Like at tight end, that's like the people starting Taysom Hill when there's nothing there and you say whatever. like there's a line between the good quarterbacks and the quarterbacks that I know are never just going to come out and throw 3 or 4 touchdowns, like the Ritters and the Tannehills, where I just say, whatever, send it. Sam Howell, I don't care. If he has a bad game, at least I gave myself a shot. Because some of these other guys, you're not even giving yourself a shot.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you're sitting there, I mean, and we'll talk about, Josh Dobbs, I'm sure at some point here going up against Cincinnati, I mean, that's another one of those guys who you're, just kind of wondering on. So, all right. So, there you go. Top 3 right there at quarterback you want to take a look at the running back position. I just put Denver backfield together, right? Samaje Perine, Jaleel McLaughlin, both guys who are sharing the work 50-50 right now. And if Javonte Williams is out with this hip pointer, that's something to take a look at. What do we look at as far as like how to spend for a guy like McLaughlin when you don't even know if Javonte Williams is out?
Yeah, and that's the tough part. It's got to be deep benches, but here's the thing: the reason that I'm still kind of in on Jaleel is that this isn't just a situation where we go and pull up the depth chart and we say who's next, what's his name? Oh, it's this guy. This guy had a little bit of steam in the offseason. They were saying they really liked this guy and that he was popping in some games and saying that he might even get some work during the season, and he kind of has a little bit. And yes, he looked good this weekend. So for me, it's not just this isn't just depth chart hunting, and it's like, oh yeah, Joshua Kelly and Larry Roundtree. Like, this guy actually had some steam. So I'm interested a little bit. You never know when a guy's going to come out of nowhere and just become Sean Payton's best friend, right? So I'd consider it.
I would definitely consider it. And I'll tell you what, because you're also looking at a situation where maybe Samaje Perine's role just stays exactly as it is, and McLaughlin takes on the Javonte Williams role. And then possibly, he's more of the lead guy and Samaje Perine just stays the complimentary back. You see that happen in a lot of situations. So you can't just assume that Samaje Perine is going to be, seeing an increase in touches. He's already seeing a 50% snap share with Javonte. So that he's getting work. It's just a matter of, can McLaughlin get more work on top of that? So we'll put Denver backfield in that spot there. We'll also talk Zach Charbonnet, Chuba Hubbard, Miles Sanders. You tweeted it out, Coop. You're like, is Miles Sanders going to be hurt all year long? Is this the time to invest in Chuba Hubbard?
I think it is. And I'm a big Miles Sanders guy, but he's clearly inefficient, whether it's the injury or not. I like to think that it is the injury. But if you got this guy who's injured, is it really doing anyone a favor to run him out there and have him just play injured and not put in the effort and not really generate anything? So I think that regardless, give him a week, right? If he's not he didn't practice at all last week and then he just played terribly, just give him a week. Let Chuba play. The bye week's coming up. Maybe they can hold off till then. But yeah, I think you got to start stashing Chuba. Not even if you're a Miles Sanders owner, just in general. Like, it's hard enough to find guys that even look efficient at all. At least Chuba, he looks pretty good. He looks decent. Best he's ever looked, because he's had chances in the past and it didn't look great. He does look better this year.
And Charbonnet, again, he's a guy that you stash on your bench. To me, he's not a guy he's not pushing his way into a shared role with with Kenneth Walker. He's there for mop-up duty right now. When the Seahawks have the game in hand and they want to kind of spare Kenneth Walker, that's when we're going to see a lot of Zach Charbonnet. Very talented back. Will be explosive at some point or another, but for right now, this is prepping for the future. This is stashing guys away. At what's that?
I was say it's the Josh Palmer versus Quentin Johnston, where you said it on the show. You were like, "Hey, one guy is playing more than the other guy. If you need, that's the guy right now, right?" So forget if you have deep enough benches to stash maybes, then go ahead. But for the time being, we're gonna play the guy that's playing, and you gotta not worry so much about the guy that you think would be good if he ever did play.
Waiver wire wide receivers. I think this is really where it's going to be at for a lot of people this week. Jameson Williams likely available in a lot of leagues if you weren't able to stash him away. Tyler Boyd in the wake of the T. Higgins situation. Michael Wilson came up with 2 touchdowns in garbage time for the Cardinals, but garbage time still counts here. Did I get that right as the top 3 wide receivers, or do you think there's somebody else whose name deserves a little recognition?
Now, I'm going hard after Michael Wilson and Jameson Williams, and it depends where I stand. Because with Jameson Williams, they came out and told us that he's going to be eased in. He hasn't been allowed to practice, right? he was allowed to go to meetings after 3 games suspended, but couldn't go to practice. And Dan Campbell said himself, he's like, you can't just take a guy who hasn't practiced and play him 60 snaps. So if this is going to be my wide receiver 5 or 6 on my roster, that's when I say, okay, I know we're waiting. Like, I know we're holding off. I'm going to throw him in there. If you need someone to start this week, it's got to be Tyler Boyd or Michael Wilson. Like, people picking up Jameson Williams, you cannot put him in your lineup. They straight up told us he's not going to play a big snap share. So just be real careful with that. But I think that long term, we got to respect the possibility that he's the guy that they drafted him to be, which is entirely possible. A first round pick they traded up for.
Yeah. All right. At the tight end position, tight end waiver wire, this is going to be intriguing here. Logan Thomas, likely available. Jonnu Smith, the other tight end in Atlanta, friend of Arthur Smith. I feel like Britt might be trolling Kyle Pitts owners with this call here, but then there's the one that I know is going to hurt you a little bit. Yeah, you were down on him this past week. Jake Ferguson of the Dallas Cowboys seems to be Dak's new Dalton Schultz.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you know what? The thing is, we go through and we do everything with the numbers, and the numbers say Jake Ferguson's not playing the full snap share. And even with Peyton Hendershot out, they still use Schoonmaker some, right? And you say, okay, he's low A dot guy, all this. But at the end of the day, if Dak Prescott, no one can make Dak Prescott throw the ball to Brandon Cooks, right? Like, no one can make him go through his reads and do all those things. If he's the kind of guy that what he wants to do is throw to Jake Ferguson, we gotta respect that. We gotta lean into it, especially whenever Peyton Hendershot's out. And if Ferguson can do it against the Patriots, or a great team versus the tight end, then he can probably do it against any team. So I'm moving Ferguson up in my rankings. He's going to be up there, like in the yin and yang rankings. Goddard and Kittle are coming down to the inside, and Ferguson's going to be right there. He's going to be right where those guys are. Where on the last show, we talked about it, and somebody asked, should I drop Kittle for Ferguson? I personally, I can't bring myself to do it, but Britt's willing to do it. Britt's willing to do it. I'm like, I don't know, Howard. Would you? If
Britt's George willing Kittle, to do it, willing to drop George Kittle for Jake Ferguson? I don't know if I could do that.
It's a little too much. But if you can possibly, like, we're in a world now where if you're starting tight end is Dallas Goedert or George Kittle, you can't just wait around forever for a wide receiver to get hurt. You have to start using, even if you're going to continue to start them, you have to start using a bench spot on the highest risk, highest reward player, and just give yourself a shot at upside, which is what it's a spot where I like Logan Thomas, because I think that, he wasn't a great week this week, but he's clearly a guy that they want involved in that offense. And this matchup coming up with Eddie Jackson banged up and the Bears being the Bears.
Bears.
This is the Bears being the Bears. It's Logan Thomas town, right?
No doubt. All right, and here we go. 3 defenses you can possibly stream off the waiver wire if you need to pick up a defense. Dolphins taking on the Giants. I think that was all self-explanatory last night. Falcons going up against Houston. Falcons is a very underrated defense here. I know CJ Stroud's balling out, but Falcons could be a pretty good team for some turnovers. And then the Colts against Tennessee, because, Ryan Tannehill.
Right, exactly. Dude, I've never – this is the first time. Through 4 games, he has not only won – but 2 times they've run a flea flicker that worked, and the player was wide open, and he overthrew it.
Yeah, he missed him.
Twice now. I mean, come on, man. It's on a silver platter. So, yeah, the Falcons, if their quarterback was better, we'd be talking about this team. This team would be the hottest team in football, because they seemingly hit on every offseason move. Bijan's awesome. Jonnu Smith is playing well. Jesse Bates, how good has Jesse Bates been on this defense? Like,
I said Cincinnati was going to miss him so much.
Yeah,
everybody just kind of like blew over it, man.
Right? Yeah, they lost Von Bell too. It's like they lost both their starting safeties.
Yeah, both our safeties, and
the Bengals back. Yeah, seriously, it's crazy that we in the fantasy football world we just ignore that sometimes. But I mean, Jesse Bates been all over the place, so. As much as the Stroud hype is there, I don't mind that the Falcons play at all. I think Dolphins versus Giants is probably what I'd be going for right now, though, because you got a banged up Saquon, and the coach is screaming at the quarterback, and Darren Waller's literally saying, like, I don't know what's going on. Like, it's
Andrew Thomas still out, also left tackle. That's a big deal.
Huge. Yeah. Huge deal. So yeah, I think the Dolphins, that's a number one. But you look at, people are going to look at Stroud and think like, okay, fantasy football equals good, but the Falcons are probably one you can wait and add off waivers after the fact, which is, it's always nice when you don't have to use a claim or use your FAAB. So I think that's a nice sneaky one.
Yeah. Again, check out the waiver wire article over at fantasyalarm.com from Britt Flynn. She of Jake Ferguson over George Kittle, not necessarily speaking for the rest of us, but nevertheless, go check out that waiver wire article. Very great stuff as always. And, you guys will find Britt Flynn here all over the Fantasy Alarm YouTube page as well. Before we start moving on here and start rage dropping some players, let's go over to the chat. Yeah. Let's talk to the peoples out here. We'll see what's going on. Who needs what? I'm going to start off with Jedi Avenger. In a PPR, would you drop Drake London for any of the other young, exciting wide receivers out there? Marvin Mims, Rashee Rice, Romeo Dobbs, Jaden Reed. Would you drop London over for any of those four?
Yeah, I don't think I can. If I am, it's going to be for Romeo Dobbs, because he showed this week that he's going to maintain his full role, right? The full outside role. So that's the guy I would consider. But Marvin Mims only played 17 snaps again this week. So I mean, like, when do you plan to use him? I think there's a better chance that Drake London just bounces back with Taylor Heineke if they go that route at some point. Like, if you're just going to be stashing guys and hanging on and waiting for them, I'd rather just wait for Desmond Ridder to get benched. So I think I would hang tight. What do you think, Howard?
No, I agree with you completely. I would definitely stay on Drake London. I mean, the talent there at wide receiver, and I agree with you. I'll tell you what, we did top 3 waiver wire quarterbacks. If you want to go deep, you want to stash, you got that bench spot. Heineke might be somebody to take a look at. I know it's a run first offense, but Heineke's got an arm and they can still throw the ball, 25, 30 times a game. So
he can play. Yeah.
He can definitely play. Him in London would be great.
Yeah, man, please.
All right, let's see. Chris Alves says his league runs waivers out every 3 weeks. Oh, every 3 weeks. That's difficult.
I got a NASCAR league that works like that, but NASCAR is also literally the entire year. I think they take a month off, so we do it like that. But yeah, that's sketchy, Alves.
Well, yeah, you are here to hang out, Chris. We got you, man. We got you. You'll pick up a couple of things here and there, even though you can't run waivers right now. At least you're planning out for the next couple of weeks.
It's got to be crazy with bye weeks, man. So you got to make sure you have 2 quarterbacks, 2 tight ends a lot of times, maybe even 2 defenses. That's got to be a wild rule, man.
Good solid bench depth. You need it. All right. Adam Brunchen says 3 guys I widely see available in my 10 teamers: Michael Wilson, Tyler Boyd, Jameson Williams. Discuss scheme, staying power, etc. I mean, listen, you're a big fan of Michael Wilson. I'm a big fan of Michael Wilson. I think that if they're going to throw the ball and late in the games, and they're going to be able to find him. I mean, he's definitely emerged. I think he's had like a nice steadily increased snap count too, right?
Yeah. For week 1, he played a big one and then it dropped off. And since then it's come right up. So yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, we kind of talked about it before. Tyler Boyd to us is more of a Band-Aid because, T Higgins will be back. Ribs. Mm-hmm. Very rare do you see somebody just out for the season because of ribs. It's just the way it goes. And Jameson Williams is your long-term stash. You can't start him this week, which for me makes Michael Wilson the number 1 guy because he has both startability right now and long-term appeal. So he's the guy I'm going after if I have to pick one.
You also have to look at Jameson Williams as a guy who could very well just be a deep threat for right now also. I mean, I don't hear anything about them increasing his route tree, sending him across the middle. Like, he's a stretch the defense kind of a guy. I'd like to see him get some targets across the middle and see what we've got with him, because until that's the case, I mean, he's like a rich man's Mac Hollins.
You know what's funny about that, Howard, is that's verbatim what Dan Campbell pretty much said. He was like, I don't care about the touchdowns and all that stuff. He goes, I want to see this guy become a reliable wide receiver. So it's like, same thing. The coach is saying the same thing. He's like, forget that other stuff. First thing we need is this guy to be reliable. And basically kind of alluding to that. You're biting kneecaps over there. The 2 of you guys been eating kneecaps for breakfast because you're on the same page, man. But he basically, I mean, like, to that point, it sounds like the player he was describing was Josh Reynolds. He's like, we got this guy that's reliable here that we're just going to keep using him. So, hey, John and Pemba, just everything coming up John and Pemba these days.
Well, the world has enough Khalif Raymonds. Let's just let's face facts. Bob Voitko hanging out here in the chat. What's up,
Hey,
Bob?
Bobo.
Smokey the cat. Last night, Smokey making some money.
Yeah, moolah.
Great stuff there. Chris, rather trade for Saquon. All right, so just so you know, Chris, so because you're new here, tomorrow is all that trade talk. Today we'd like to try and focus on waivers, kind of helping you guys replenish your roster. And then what happens is, so you have to, like, that to me, that's the process, Coop. You do waivers, you run waivers on Wednesday, all right, or Tuesday night into Wednesday or Wednesday night into Thursday. If you don't get your guys, or if you got guys that you think now you're building up depth and you want to make trades afterwards, like, it's always, to me, it's always waivers first, trades second, because people just make it so difficult to trade with you, especially in fantasy football. So you always got to go to the waiver wire first and look to see what you can build without having to go through the rigmarole of trade talk.
Right. It increases your leverage. Increase your leverage first using the wire, and then make the moves.
Yeah. But to answer the question, Saquon right now more than JT, only because I know Saquon will be back from an ankle injury, and I don't know what JT is doing. Yep. Would you rather have Najee or Jalen Warren on your bench? Smoke. Why can't you have room for both? But right. I'll say Najee. What about you, Coop?
Agreed. If it's going to be your bench player, Jalen Warren's more scheme specific or like game script specific. If I'm just bringing a guy in for one random week, I would just rather have the starting running back.
Yeah. Adam's here again. Add Jake Ferguson or Zach Ertz for Gerald Everett. I mean, it's a yes for both.
Yeah.
I think now the question is do you like Ferguson or Ertz more? Who are you setting your priority for, and who's going to be your contingency pick?
If it's full PPR, it's Ertz. The thing is, Ertz gives you no yards. Touchdowns are hard to come by. So if it's half or standard, I would probably go Ferguson. And yeah, Gerald Everett is not a player you need to hold through the bye week. And the Donald Parham news, they were saying he might have broken his wrist. It's only a sprain. So Parham will be back.
Wow. Only a sprain.
Yeah.
I'm not rooting for an injury or anything like that, but I mean, I watch Gerald Everett at times, and Gerald Everett sometimes he looks like what George Kittle looks like, right. He's going to fight for those yards. He's going to really push and he
wears number 7, so he looks fast. It makes him look faster, right?
Yeah.
So I'm with you. It's like we're not rooting for injuries. We're rooting for clarity. That's what we want. We want consolidation.
Yeah. Clarity would be nice. I'm curious here. I just didn't see what Zach Ertz's targets. Yeah, 10 targets.
Yeah,
it's crazy. I wish we could get him more reliable for touchdowns or yardage there. But all right, well, moving through that. All right, Smokey's dropping Muth.
Yeah, I mean,
I can't argue against that.
Here's the thing. None of the platforms are going to make him IR eligible tonight, and he's going to miss this week, and the following week is their bye week. He's going to miss the next 2 weeks, and he was probably droppable before he got hurt. So got to do what you got to do, man.
All right. M. Rojas is in here. Dobbs or Goff? All right. So this is a very, very important question as far as like guys that we're picking up this week. I was actually I was just doing the watch list there, and I was actually kind of eyeballing Dobbs against Cincinnati, thinking, is this a pay down that we need to explore? Dobbs against Cincinnati, Jared Goff at home, but it is against Carolina. So what they did to Kirk Cousins.
Right.
Told you. I told you.
Dobbs passer rating. First week, 78.8. Week 2, 99.9. Week 3, 120. Week 4, 102.2. And he runs too. And he runs a little too. I think, especially if it's only a 1 week start, if you're doing like buys or whatever, it's a 1 week play. I think it's Dobbs against the Bengals.
Yeah, that's as crazy as that sounds, but we were talking about this just before we got onto the air. Like Jesse Bates and Von Bell missing from that secondary for Cincinnati has really caused them a ton of problems across the middle. A ton of problems.
It's bad. And the thing is that the Lions get the Panthers. That's going to be a David Montgomery feast today, I think.
Yeah, probably. Probably Monty against Carolina in that their run defense. I mean, they even made Alexander Madison look good, right? Didn't he rush for like 80 yards?
Yeah. It's bad. It's bad over there. Could even be a Gibbs day. Could be everybody.
Could be. Bob, we are in on Michael Wilson, 100%. Go get him. Go get him. Is the Jaden Reed dreaming over? Well, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. He played a partial snap share. He's Tyler Boyd now, which is fine.
Is that fine though?
No. When T. Higgins is hurt or when Christian Watson is hurt, then it's fine. But right now, it's actually not fine.
Mr. Fantasy Master with the trade talk here. Again, tomorrow we're going to focus on the trades. I'm not going to douche you, though, here and be like, no. Connor
you get a silver star instead of a gold star.
Yeah, exactly.
Question.
Yeah. Here's the answer today. Probably ask me tomorrow, and I'll have a little bit more insight into it. But James Conner for Alexander Madison and DJ Moore or Christian Kirk. So giving up Connor, getting the two players in there, looks like you need some depth behind Jalen Waddle.
And I think I would rather have DJ Moore than Christian Kirk. At least Moore has some explosiveness, and I think I would do it. Just James Conner. The team is still, bad, and he's one of the most injury-prone guys. And Madison. Cam Akers only played a little bit. I'm not sure if it's ever going to flip and Akers is going to be the starter. So I just roll with Madison. I like doing the trade.
All right. Herm's asking about Michael Wilson, like everybody else. We've talked about that. Is Javonte actually hurt? They say it's a hip pointer. They say that it's not going to keep him out for any length of time. So we're just going to have to watch the practice reports here. I'm still in on stashing Jaleel McLaughlin in leagues if you can do that. Is Sanders hurt or trending towards injury? Same thing. Yeah. He played. He got some snaps. He got some red zone touches. He haven't got like the green zone work in there also.
Yeah, unless they come out and say like, oh, it's a hernia and he has to have surgery on it. I think he's just going to keep playing. So it is what it is.
Akimbo Cage wants to know about trading CeeDee Lamb for Garrett Wilson and James Conner. Again, we'd love for this question to be in tomorrow. But here you go. Would you accept that trade? Would you trade away? I mean, it sounds like, he's trading away CeeDee Lamb for Garrett Wilson and James Conner.
We'd have to know what the rest of your lineup looks like, but hey, I just wouldn't do it because it's hard. You can't trust Garrett Wilson right now, but it's if you need a running back to start right away, then it's not a bad thought. CeeDee Lamb will have better games though. He's got better game scripts coming, whereas Garrett Wilson, I'm not sure what could happen to make it better.
Well, me wearing this sweatshirt, I'm speaking it all into existence. Come on, the Jets are in Denver. The Jets are going to Denver, so we're gonna have trouble breathing in that high altitude. Right, but Denver's defense is atrocious. So
it's one of the worst of all time through 4 games. Actually, according to DVOA, it is the worst all time through 4 games.
Yeah. Is Chuba an RB3 if he gets the full role? If he gets the full role, yeah. I mean, he's definitely worth if he gets the full role, but he's not getting the full role off of Sanders, right?
In this environment, if any running back gets the full role, they're an RB2. There's just so many splits out
at
there.
the least.
That's what I'm saying. It's like it doesn't matter. If one person's getting all the carries for the worst team, they are an RB2.
Is Jaden Reed a better stash than Rashee Rice? I say no.
No, Rashee Rice, man. Rashee Rice. Finally, I mean, looking at the snaps with Patrick Mahomes before things, got ugly in the game before he played a ton. And this week he was out there, I don't see why he wouldn't play more than guys like MVS and Justin Watson soon. So stash Rashi up.
Yeah. All right. Make COD great again. Again, I would love for this trade question tomorrow. But again, not going to be a douche about it.
Right.
Trade away JT for DK Metcalf. He's 3-1 right now. If you're 3-1, why would you want to trade away Taylor? Are you getting anything out of his wide receivers? Are Waddle, Pittman, Pickens, and
Yeah. I think we saw this question on the last show, and because your running backs are pretty good with Kyron and the whole gang, then I would consider it.
Yeah. I mean, you got Bijan, Saquon, Kyron. You hold Moss just in case Taylor doesn't stay with the Colts.
If you start 3 wide receivers, I do it for sure. And in an 8-team league, you got to be starting 3 wide receivers. 18.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say do it.
You'd like to think.
Like to think.
I'm playing an 8-team league where start 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, no flex.
Yeah, that's the league where you do like a 5-for-1 trade.
All right, pick your favorite waiver wire guy: Mike Wilson, Zay Jones, or Rashee Rice. Full point PPR.
Mike Wilson, go ship captain. Let's go.
All right, Mr. Scampers in his half point PPR wants to drop JSN or Jahan Dotson.
I mean, JSN for the time being he's a part-time player. He's a rookie Chris Godwin, where we're stashing him in Dynasty, but he's not going to play over Lockett and Metcalf. So I'm dropping JSN.
Okay. Scampers is also curious to find out, is McLaughlin the stash over Pirine if you've got Javonte?
Yeah, I think that Howard kind of said it best, where we've seen this before with the Pirine type players. I think the best example is James White. No matter who the other back was, if they got hurt, James White did not become an every down back. And I think Samaje Perine's the same way, where even if the other guy's hurt, he's not going to be an every down player. So yeah, go with Jaleel. He looked good. They've been talking about him all offseason. Why not?
Hal wants to know if he should hold Luke Musgrave and hope or just drop for some jag.
You got it.
I mean, if that jag is Evan Engram, yeah, you get the jag. But
I think he's staying for just a guy.
Is he?
Sorry, Howard. Yeah, you're right. Okay. But yes, I mean, here's the problem. Especially if you don't have an IR spot, because if Musgrave's out this week, they got a bye week the next week, and he wasn't even a guy that you could really trust already. So, I mean, you might have to do it, dude. I wouldn't drop him just to drop him. So hold him if you can, but.
Preston Farrell says his tight end spot needs work. He's got Everett, but is it time to move on? Available. Here you go. Ertz, Komet, Higbee, Schultz, Conklin, Knox, PPR. You gotta go Ertz, right?
Gotta go Ertz, yeah. I mean, he's got 2 games now with 10 targets. No substitute for that.
And I would obviously set the contingencies up, and I would do them exactly how you've got them written out here, right? Ertz, Komet, then Higbee. Mm-hmm. Those 3, then Schultz. Those 4 right there. If you don't get beyond that, then that's just insane. And yeah, go ahead and use Conklin because Denver sucks against the tight end. But
yeah, Justin Simmons has been out. I'm not sure when he's going to be back, but Broncos are useless without him.
Do I drop which of these 2, Jaylen Warren or Cam Akers for Chuba Hubbard? This is bench stashing only. I don't think you need to make that move if this is strictly for a bench stash.
Yeah, I think you hang tight with it. Warren is getting the targets. He's getting like 5 targets a game. It's just he only has like 25 carries, but still, I think you stick with what you have.
Is it too early to pick up Kyler Murray's on waivers? He's got a free IR spot.
I mean, if you've always use your IR spot when you can. So I have Kyler Murray in IR spot. I don't know if he's ever going to play this year, if he's ever going to play for the Cardinals again, but I have him there because when Kyler Murray does play, if you take all the quarterbacks all time and sort them by points per game in fantasy football, Kyler Murray is like 4 on that list. So you have to at least throw him in a spot just in case. He might not be a good real life quarterback, but fantasy football, Kyler Murray is a guy.
Just be careful that you're not dropping somebody really productive to pick him up. Because remember, you got to drop somebody, put them onto IR, and then add somebody again. So just be careful you're not dumping somebody you shouldn't be dumping. George Cook wants to know, how much FAAB are you spending on Jameson Williams?
No more than 10 to 15%. Like he's a pipe dream. He's a long-term stash, and you know what the upside is. It's like, but if I have a league like the one we kind of just described, where there's only a couple spots, like 2 wide receiver spots, there's no reason to have Tyler Boyd's. You should only have high risk, high reward guys on the bench because it's going to take a lot to crack your lineup. So in leagues like that, yeah, but I mean, you just got to know that you're going to be hanging this guy for a long time. If you drop FAAB on this guy, you can't drop him next week. So just keep that in mind. You're going to have a ton of people buying James Williams, and then when he goes out and plays 30% of the snaps, they're going to be like, "Oh, can I drop this guy?" It's like, no. If you add him now, you're adding him for the long haul.
Yeah. And George, we don't do lineup questions here, especially on a Tuesday, dude. You relax.
We will.
Pump the
We
brakes.
do them.
See on Thursday. See who you're getting waivers first. Maybe talk some trade tomorrow, and then we'll go from there. DM 7819. I've got Javonte Williams and Saquon Barkley. Who should I look to add off of waivers to pick up to pair with Jacobs? Gus Edwards, Chuba, or anyone else? He's got Zach Moss. Well, good that you have Zach Moss. Yeah. For me, it's Edwards over Chuba.
Yeah, Gus, dude. Gus, the final, I feel like we've waited years for Gus to have a game where he actually got most of the work, and he finally did, and he looked good. So, yeah, Gus is the man. Yeah. The Gus bus, it's finally started up. It's been sitting dormant for years and years.
And Preston Farrell wants to know if you're picking up either Dobbs or Michael Wilson off the waiver wire, who's your first pick there, Coop?
Oh, Romeo Dobbs is on the wire too.
Yeah. Saying if both are on the waiver wire, Dobbs and Michael Wilson, who's your preferred guy?
I'm gonna go with Michael Wilson simply because you might have to drop Dobbs the week after next when he's got a bye week.
Ooh.
Yeah. So Cardinals have bye week 14, so it's like go for the guy who's playing over the next couple of weeks.
All right. Before we start diving into a couple of players who we want to drop or who at least we know are safe to drop, I'll put it that way. I just want to remind you guys that Underdog Fantasy is offering new contests and chances to win every single day. You can play their Pick'em contest by choosing higher or lower on 2 to 5 players. And the more players you pick, the more you can win. You can do it for MLB, NFL, NBA, NHL, PGA, all sports. Underdog Fantasy also offers daily drafts with leagues ranging from 2 to 12 players. And now there's actually a brand new way you can play Underdog Fantasy. You can make picks during the game. That's right. In-game pick'em. All you need to do is sign up at fantasyalarm.com/underdog. Use promo code ALARM. They will match your first deposit up to $100. Again, that's fantasyalarm.com/underdog, promo code ALARM. Wouldn't you know it that their featured player here, the gimme that they're giving you got to invest in Justin Fields on a Thursday night, half a yard. It's like somebody there who works for Underdog, clearly a Bears fan, or at least had Justin Fields on their fantasy team, and now it's all wheels up now.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, the victory lapping after one game against historically the worst team we've seen through 4 games. It's we knew it was coming, right? We knew it was coming. But hey, you know what? Let people have their fun. Let them have their fun.
Yeah, have your fun. Listen, throw it in there. I mean, it's a gimme, right? So you got Justin Fields higher than half a yard for the game. Beautiful, whatever. We'll just give a couple of picks. We're just kind of looking ahead to some of the games here. For me, I'm going to go with this here. I'm jumping on this Arizona bandwagon, and it's probably in like the worst possible way that I am kind of just buying into it. I think it's more my anti-Cincinnati take right now, but I'm going James Conner over 60 and higher than 60 and a half rushing yards for him. I think that Cincinnati's defense is a hot mess right now. They do not stop the run well. I think they're giving up like the 3rd or 4th most rushing yards per game at the moment. So James Conner, higher than 60 and a half rushing yards. What about you, Coop?
I like it, man. I like it. People forget last year we looked at Geno Smith, and for how many weeks we said, oh, well, he's not actually good. He can't keep being good. And then he was. And like Joshua Dobbs, CJ Stroud, I like jumping on those bandwagons, man, because they're fun guys to root for and they look good right now. So, yeah, I'm in with you. I'm going to lean into something we talked about earlier with this Falcons defense and some of the sneaky players they have here. And even though I've been a big Michael Wilson guy, I've been a big Nico Collins guy, I'm actually going to go lower on Nico Collins. He's coming off the big game, so his lines, I mean, it's still only a 55.5, but you go and look at not just what Jesse Bates is doing, but what AJ Terrell is doing. Like he stays on the outside. So whoever's out there, which Collins will be, he's a split end. He just erased Josh Reynolds, Calvin Ridley this week. I mean, he got away with the touchdown, but 28 yards he had. If you go in and look at PFF, the yards that AJ Terrell has given up directly in coverage this year, 19, 25, 16. Last week, he let up 40 with the Ridley play that was on him, it was a mistake. But I think that it's a bad matchup for Nico Collins. So I'm actually going to go lower on this one.
I like that a lot. I didn't even listen. If they move him on to the other side, he's still dealing with Jeffrey Okudah.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, Okudah isn't like the be all end all that everybody thought he was coming into the league, but he's still a solid cover guy. And if he's getting some safety help there against Nico Collins, yeah, I like that. Lower on than there. I'm going to put that one in there. So I'm going to take my Justin Fields gimme. Nico Collins lower than 55.5 receiving yards. James Conner higher than 60.5 rushing yards. That's your little your 3 legs for your underdog fantasy pick'em contest picks. Coop, just jump to the chat before we talk about saying goodbye to a couple of players here. Rashee Rice, as far as a waiver clay, yeah.
We love him.
It says I'm assuming it might want to say top waiver. I don't see why he wouldn't be. He's already on all my teams. So.
Right. That's what I mean. I'm like, people are asking me, like, do I add Rashee Rice and Michael Wilson? I'm like, nobody's adding them in the leagues I'm in, baby. Let's go. What's up, dude? Like, we were right. It's funny. It's like, if I was just right about some of my early picks, my teams would be a lot better. But like the late guys, the Nico Collinses and the Michael Wilsons, we've had no problem with that. Right. It's the Kyle Pittses and the Dalton Kincaids that are killing my teams. My Laporta teams are doing great. It's the other ones that are having a hard time.
Kincaid teams, on the other hand,
Kincaid teams are having a little trouble. But we'll see. His usage improved this week. I got the tight end article coming out today, yin and yang. By the end of the day today, we're going to have the Week 5 rankings all updated. So you're going to have that all today. You'll be good to go. But yeah, Rashee Rice, I'm rooting for him. And if Michael Wilson's not there, then I'd say for guys who can start right away, he's got to be ahead of Jameson Williams for sure. So yeah, I don't see why he wouldn't be top or at least top 2 for you.
All right, one more question here. Hal wants to know: are you holding Aiden O'Connell in a 12-team super flex? Watson and Russ are his other QBs.
Yeah, you have to. You have to. It's like you don't have to start a quarterback at Superflex, but you have to hold on to any quarterback that's starting. You just can't just drop starting quarterbacks just to drop them.
All right, here we go. Now it's the tough part. We're going to wrap things up here on the show. A little rapid firework for Coop. Now, listen, obviously, your league size matters. Your depth of your bench matters. So be very careful in dropping certain players. Obviously, you don't want to drop a quarterback if you're playing in a super flex league. So when we ask, when I ask Coop, are we dropping some of these quarterbacks? This is for single quarterback leagues where you have, one QB already sitting on your roster, or you're just going to kind of rotate this guy out. Ready, Coop?
Yes.
I don't think you're ready for rapid fire. Get ready for rapid fire. Here it comes, man. This is going to come at you nice and quick. Daniel Jones.
Drop.
Ryan Tannehill.
Super drop.
Kenny Pickett.
Kenny Pickett you could probably drop in even in Superflex. I mean, he's hurt and then they have a bye week. I don't know. Maybe you got to hold on to him, I guess. But Kenny Pickett, dude, come on now.
Yeah. All right, that was the easy one. Here's the tough one. You ready? Because I don't want to drop any running backs in this running back economy, but here you go. Kenneth Gainwell.
I'm holding him, but you can't start him until his role increases. He only played like 25% of the work there. He played half of the pass work. Next.
Antonio Gibson.
Drop.
Ezekiel Elliott.
Drop.
Damian Harris.
Just drop him. You could drop add Latavius Murray. Add Latavius Murray if you can, because he's playing the role we thought Damian Harris might have.
Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, you could drop him. Breece Hall 2 weeks in a row now has doubled his snaps.
AJ Dillon.
AJ Dillon, I'm still holding on to just because he's still a handcuff plus that you can play in a nightmare situation. I'd rather start Dillon than any guy you've named.
Justice Hill.
Drop.
Kendry Miller.
Drop Kendry Miller. He had his chance. Jamal Williams is going to be back. Alvin Kamara is already back.
Devin Singletary.
Damn it, dude. Drop him.
I knew this one. I knew this one would get you.
I hate that. Why did you put that on there, dude?
Because I have Devin Singletary everywhere.
Me too. I'm looking at my best ball lineups and I'm like, oh, Singletary. So I just wasn't paying close attention to that game and I'm looking at my best ball lineups. I'm like, oh, nice. Singletary did something today. And then I saw he threw a touchdown pass. I was like, oh my God, this guy's useless. Like, I can't bank on that. I was like, nice. Singletary did something. Oh, he threw a touchdown pass. Come on.
All right, wide receivers. Here you go. DJ Chark.
Hold DJ Chark because he has played massive snap shares in some of these games, and we don't know. I think Mingo and Terrace Marshall might be that guys on the outs, and it's going to be Thielen and Chark. So I'm hold Chark.
Alec Pierce.
You can drop Pierce, man. I really want Josh Downs to get the full work at this point. Pierce is doing nothing.
Van Jefferson.
Drop.
I know you're like, who?
I know, dude, but he
Puka
plays a lot.
Backup.
It's Puka. Yeah, he brings water on Puka Nacua. He's a perfect wide receiver 4 for a real life team because he can do everything. His dad's a coach, but in fantasy football, you can't have these. He's Zach Pascal.
Is Cooper Kupp coming back this week?
I hope he's going. I traded him in Dynasty League. I traded a first round pick for him. I'm 4-0, and I'm like, you know what? I got to just go big and maybe perhaps turn my team into an absolute wagon. So I did it. I was hanging out with my buddy in person, and I was like, just give me Cooper Kupp right now. Did the trade. In-person trade.
Kadarius Toney.
Drop. Doesn't even play.
Any Giants wide receiver. Hodgins, Campbell, Slayton.
Ball them all up. Toss them all out, man. Toss them out, dude. I mean, it's not the thing is all those guys, they actually let Wan'Dale Robinson and Jalen Hyatt play more snaps. So there are 2 Giants wide receivers I might stash. Neither one of those guys you listed is one of them.
Dude, if you were watching the Manning cast last night, he was like, put Hyatt in. Put Hyatt in. Yeah. Peyton was all in on Jalen Hyatt.
Might as well, dude. Well, because Hyatt with the Tennessee. So
of course, yes, but still.
He won the Fred Biletnikoff Award. I mean, like, clearly he's good. He can play. Just give him a shot. At this point, it should just be Wan'Dale and Hyatt. And if you lose, at least you lost with the high upside plays.
He's no John Mechie, though, is he?
Oh, no, man. I just dropped Mechie for sure.
Chase Claypool.
Dude, come on now. That's messed up.
Why is that messed up?
Because I have one. I was looking at my lightning round best ball team. I have Chase Claypool and Corey Davis on that team, dude. It's best ball with no waivers, so I just have to sit there and look at them. They're not even on teams.
All right, wrapping it up with the tight ends. Kyle Pitts.
Hold.
Darren Waller.
I'm holding Waller too.
Chigoziem Okonkwo.
Drop. If he can't do it with Treylon Burks out, he can't do it. And we were betting, we were going with the over on 30.5 yards. He had 29. So he just broke my heart again this week. Gotta drop him.
Pat Freiermuth.
Drop him. He's not going to play this week, and then he has the bye week next week. Unless by some miracle he's IR eligible by the time waivers come through, you don't got to hold him.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. All the great waiver wire stuff that you need to know: who to drop, who to add, what priority, how much to pay for these guys. Head over to fantasyalarm.com and check out Britt Flynn's waiver wire article. Tomorrow on Alarm Fantasy Football, we're talking trades. Load up those chat questions. We know everybody out there is talking trade. This is where Coop and I are going to dig deep. We're going to talk about your roster. We're going to talk about who you got going on, what you need, what you don't need. So we're going to do roster evaluations while talking trade. So load us up for that for tomorrow. In the meantime, big thanks to Ernie Acosta, our producer for today. Andrew Cooper, any final thoughts? Any last words?
Today's the biggest day for Fantasy Alarm content, the biggest one. So make sure you get in there. By the end of the day, we're going to have your waiver stuff up, yin and yang tight end, rankings for week 5, big day for stuff. So make sure you're plugged in, you're in the Discord, you're making it happen. Let's go. Let's win some leagues, baby.
There you go. That's going to do it for us here on Alarm Fantasy Football. For Andrew Cooper, I'm Howard Bender. We'll catch you next time.